December 1941. The fate of the world hangs in the balance on the frozen plains outside Moscow. German soldiers, exhausted but driven, stand at the very gates of the Soviet capital. This is the story of their furthest advance, the moment when the Third Reich came closest to its ultimate prize. Just 6 months earlier, on June 22, 1941, Operation Barbarossa had been launched. Hitler's blitzkrieg tore through the Soviet Union. 3 massive army groups, North, Center, and South smashed through Soviet defenses. By autumn, Army Group Center, commanded by Field Marshal Fedor von Bock, was poised for the final push on Moscow. Hitler believed that capturing the capital would shatter Soviet morale and end the war in the east. He called it Operation Typhoon. The offensive began on September 30th. Initially, it was a spectacular success. The Wehrmacht encircled and destroyed entire Soviet armies at Vyazma and Bryansk, capturing over 650,000 Red Army soldiers. The road to Moscow seemed wide open. Panic gripped the city. The Soviet government evacuated to Kubyshev, though Stalin himself famously remained in the Kremlin, a symbol of defiance. Muscovites dug anti-tank ditches and built fortifications, turning their city into a fortress. But as the Germans advanced, they faced a new and formidable enemy, the Russian weather. The autumn rains, known as the Rasputitsa, turned the roads into impassable rivers of mud. Tanks, trucks, and artillery became hopelessly bogged down. The blitzkrieg, dependent on speed and mobility, ground to a halt. Supply lines, already stretched to their breaking point, began to fail. German soldiers, still in their summer uniforms, shivered in the freezing muck. By November, the mud froze solid. The ground became hard enough for the panzers to roll again. Despite dwindling supplies and mounting exhaustion, the German command ordered one final, desperate lunge for Moscow. They planned a pincer movement to encircle the city. The 4th Panzer Group, under Erich Hoepner, pushed from the north, while the 2nd Panzer Army, led by the legendary Heinz Guderian, attacked from the south, aiming for the city of Tula. The northern pincer made the most dramatic progress. On November 27th, elements of the 2nd Panzer Division reached the town of Khimki, a northwestern suburb of Moscow. From there, German officers could reportedly see the spires of the Kremlin through their binoculars. They were only about 20 kilometers, or 12 miles, from the heart of the city. This was the high-water mark of the German invasion of Russia. The very gates of Moscow were in sight. A reconnaissance patrol from the 638th Infantry Regiment even reached the Moscow-Volga Canal, firing on a riverboat. Another patrol from Pioneer Battalion 62 pushed into the suburb of Lobnya and captured the railway station, just a stone's throw from the city limits. Imagine the feeling for those soldiers so close yet so far. They had marched thousands of kilometers, but the final few proved to be the most difficult. But this was the end of the line. They were at the absolute limit of their strength and supply. The temperature had plunged to minus 40 degrees Celsius. Engines refused to start. Weapons froze. Frostbite became as great an enemy as the Red Army. The soldiers were starving and freezing, their summer uniforms offering no protection against the brutal Russian winter. Simultaneously, the Soviets were not idle. Under the brilliant command of General Georgy Zhukov, fresh, well-equipped Siberian divisions had been secretly transferred from the Far East. These troops were accustomed to the cold and were ready for a fight. They were the hidden ace up Stalin's sleeve. While the Germans were freezing, the Soviets were preparing to strike back. On December 5, 1941, just as the German offensive had completely stalled, Zhukov unleashed his counterattack. The Siberian divisions, supported by T-34 tanks which performed far better in the cold than their German counterparts, smashed into the exhausted and overextended German lines. The shock was immense. The Germans, who believed the Red Army was finished, were caught completely by surprise. The advance on Moscow was over. What followed was a desperate retreat. The Wehrmacht, for the first time in the war, was forced into a large-scale withdrawal. The myth of its invincibility was shattered in the snows outside Moscow. The soldiers who had glimpsed the Kremlin spires were now fighting for their lives, trying to escape encirclement. Guderian's panzers were pushed back from Tula, and the northern pincer collapsed. The failure to capture Moscow was a strategic turning point in World War II. It ensured the survival of the Soviet Union and meant that Germany would face a long, attritional war on two fronts, a war it could not win. The advance to Khinki and Lavnia remains a stark reminder of how close history came to taking a very different path. It was a moment decided not just by generals and tanks, but by mud, ice, and the sheer resilience of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable hardship. The Battle of Moscow was a brutal, bloody affair that cost both sides millions of casualties. It demonstrated that determination and preparedness could overcome a seemingly unstoppable force. The furthest German advance was a testament to the skill and tenacity of the Wehrmacht, but its failure was an even greater testament to the Soviet will to resist and the unforgiving nature of the Russian winter. The war would rage for another 3.5 years, but the tide had begun to turn at the gates of Moscow. Thanks for watching. If you found this piece of history as fascinating as I do, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the pivotal moments of the past. Let me know in the comments what other historical battles you'd like to see covered. See you in the next one.